I'm live. All right. So today is one day from the end of January. And hopefully some people will come on my site. Now look at the background tonight. It's weird how some nights it's black behind me. And like tonight, it's very bright. Oh, I know why. Hang on. I remember why. Just a second. There we go. I think that's better. Let's see if it adjusts. Where am I? Yep. See, there you go. It's a little bit brighter in the background. Hey, hi, Moon and Stars. It's good to see you too. Hi, Dee Dee. Thank you for coming on. Hi, Susan Kin. It's good to see you. Hearts for all of you. I love you guys. How are you? Hopefully you're well. I'm good. I'm good. It's almost the weekend. Not that that makes any difference when you're retired. It's funny. It's very funny. It's a different world when you're retired. But I'm having a good time. I mean, as good as you can have with all this stuff going on with our fires. Hey, JB808, Midnight with Magoo. That's right. You're it. You keep me going, man. Thank you. Thank you. Hi. Another day above ground is a good day. Yes, ma'am. I believe that is true. And I think you're a ma'am. You might, if you're a sir, let me know. But I think you're a ma'am. But anyway, I like Moon and Stars either way. And that is true. Every day that you're above ground is a good day. That's kind of funny, but it's true. It is for all of us. And you're a ma'am. Okay, good. That's what I thought, but I wasn't positive. And sometimes I'm wrong. Someone, I forget who it was, but it was someone that I thought sure was a ma'am. And I think it's a guy, or it's vice versa. I thought it was a guy, and it turns out it's a girl. Yeah, that's it. I thought it was a guy, and it turns out it's a girl. I forget who it is now. But anyway, I saw her on another site and found that out. Above ground and not in a cult. Exactly. Yeah, because you could be above ground and in a cult, and that's still pretty much a disaster. You know, I'm kind of amazed that people stay in Scientology when you think of how screwed up it is. A couple of us were comparing notes. I love it. We were comparing notes to what it used to be and what it is now. Actually, someone called me today. Dan. Hi, Dan. And we were talking and we were comparing notes of when we were in and what it's like now that, you know, we see what is happening with Miscavige. And it's just like, what a nightmare. You know, and we both are like, why would someone stay in with it being so creepy? I don't get that. And if you're in and you're lurking and watching this, the way out is the nearest door. And that is a fact. There's tons of us out here. That's the thing. When you're in, they keep you so isolated. You think everyone is in Scientology that's any good. And the people that have left are evil, or they're declared suppressive, or they dead, or, you know, there's just nobody out here. That's the way you think. You really do. And then you get out here and it's like, oh my God, there's tons of people that are out of Scientology. I mean, it's amazing to me. But when I first left, it was really amazing because I would be driving around with my friends and they'd say a name and I'd say, well, they're still in, right? And they'd say, well, hell no, they left 20 years ago. It was like a long time before me. Hi, Sophie. Thank you for coming on. Fear will make you do things you wouldn't normally do. True. And you don't know you're being frightened. Do you see what I mean? That's how cults work. They really are very covert about it. So it's tricky because it's hard to spot it because you don't think you're in fear. You just think, I'm at cause, I'm staying here because I want to. Those that leave need support. They're starting over after being brainwashed, in my opinion. True, very true. Hey, Sophie, in New Zealand. One day I'll make it there, Sophie. I will. I really want to. Okay, so anyway, today I'm going to go over part 2, which is the 8 dynamics. How many of you know what the 8 dynamics are? Any of you? I think most of you here do, I think. JB808, do you know what the 8 dynamics are? Say yes or no. Okay. Sophie says they always use fear to control us versus them. True. Very true. Okay, you don't know what they are. All right, good. So that is a basic thing in Scientology that they use for, you've heard the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics, right? And that is what the 8 dynamics, thank you, Susan. That is what the 8 dynamics are based on. The greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics. So let's look at what are the 8 dynamics. Hubbard says there could be said that to be 8 urges, drives, or impulses in life, right? These we call dynamics. These are motives or motivations. We call them the 8 dynamics. The first dynamic is the urge towards existence as oneself. So that's just your own survival of you, right? That's your first dynamic. That's what you call it. Here we have individuality expressed fully. This can be called the self dynamic. Okay, so there you go on that. Does anyone have a question on that before I go on? Okay, good, Sophie. Yeah, so does anyone have a question on the first dynamic? That's you as a person, just you, not you and other things. We'll get into those, but you as yourself. I'll go through them and then we can talk about them. Okay, so the second one is the urge towards existence as a sexual or bisexual activity. It's kind of interesting that Hubbard put that in there. This dynamic usually has 2 divisions. The second dynamic, A, is a sexual act itself, and the second dynamic, B, is the family unit, including the rearing of children, right? So again, now we've got the first and second dynamic. So you've got yourself and your family. So the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics, I mean, if you had just those 2 dynamics, you would still try to do what was best for the family and yourself. Hi, Verity. We're going over the 8 dynamics. I think you know what they are. Anyway, so that's the second dynamic. And it has 2 parts, the sexual act itself, which is interesting because in the Sea Org, which is the billion-year contract thing, those people can't have sex at all until they're married, right? And it doesn't really say that here. It just says the sexual act itself. And B is the family unit. But boy, he sure got it in there, man. They can't even kiss until they're married. That's why a lot of them get married very young. Okay, so that's the sex dynamic. The third dynamic is the urge towards existence in groups of individuals. Any part or part of an entire class could be considered to be a part of the third dynamic. A school, a society, the town, the nation are each part of the third dynamic, your own third dynamic. And each one is a third dynamic. This can be called the group dynamic. So you figure in New Zealand, Sophie has a whole different third dynamic than many of us here in the United States. Because we're part of our third dynamic. Okay, Sophie has a question. Why is sexual urges and children in the same dynamic? I think children and family would be in a group dynamic. Yeah, I think you're right on that too, but I'm just reading to you out of the technical dictionary what he's written. And he's got A is the sexual act itself, and B is the family unit, including the rearing of children. So I think I think, it's kind of like it has to do with sex, giving birth to children, rearing of children, that kind of thing. So I can see where they would be it's A and B. It's two different parts. I really hope you make it down here, Tori. You will love it. I know. I know. Okay, so anyway, does everyone get the third dynamic? So that's like your group dynamic. And you could be, like let's say you're in the Girl Scouts, that's your third dynamic. Let's say you are in a band, that's your third dynamic. They're just different groups that you might be a part of. Okay, the fourth dynamic. Oh, this is interesting. He says the fourth dynamic is the urge towards existence as mankind. And then he writes, whereas the white race would be considered a third dynamic, all the races would be considered the fourth dynamic. So do you get the difference there? So one is a third dynamic, the other one would be the fourth. This can be called the mankind dynamic. So it's basically all of mankind. Okay? Hi, Kim. We're going over the 8 dynamics and the survival, the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics. So these are the dynamics. All right, so the fifth one is the urge towards existence of the animal kingdom. Okay, so this includes all living things, whether vegetable or animal, the fish in the sea, the beasts of the field or of the forest, grass, trees, flowers, or anything directly and intimately motivated by life. This can be called the animal dynamic. Does anybody have any questions on that yet? Okay, the sixth dynamic is the urge towards existence as a physical universe. So the physical universe is composed, that's right, they always call it the messed universe. Scientology. Okay, sorry, Tori. Can you go over the thing about white people in a different dynamic than the others? Is there an explanation for that? He's not saying white people are different than others. He's using it as an example of, you could say white people or black people, they would be their own third dynamic. Whereas all of us mixed together is the fourth dynamic. Do you see the difference? Hi, Care for JCYT. Hey, we're going over the 8 dynamics, which has to do with survival of self, sex, and the family. The third dynamic is the group dynamic. Ooh, there goes my little thing. The fourth dynamic is all of mankind. Do you see the difference, Sophie? Okay, so yeah, so there's one or the other, but then there's all of mankind. The fifth dynamic, it has to do with all living things like animals, plants, stuff like that. That's your fifth dynamic. And then the sixth dynamic is the urge towards existence as a physical universe. So Scientology will also talk about their mess. Like, oh, my mess is really screwed up today. And that mess is short for matter, energy, space, and time. In Scientology, we take the first letter of each of these words and coin a word messed. So it's actually in the dictionary. This can be called the universe dynamic. I never heard that in Scientology. I read it, but I don't think I remembered it. So there's that, the mess universe. And you get that. That's your house, your car, your clothes, your hair, stuff like that. That's your mess. Well, I don't know about your hair, but I think so. I think your body. And, when I was 100 pounds overweight, my mess, that dynamic, the sixth dynamic, was not doing well. Then when I lost 100 pounds, doing much better. Okay, now you've got the seventh dynamic, which is the urge towards existence as or of spirits. Anything spiritual with or without identity could come under the heading of seventh dynamic. So that's a little bit vague, but that's what it is. That's what he says. I never understood why Scientology has issues with sex. I think more of religion and sinning. It was Hubbard, and he was a big sex fiend, I think. But he was, because he had all that stuff with Aleister Crowley where they're having those, sex sessions and stuff like that. So he was a strange guy. There's no question. Okay, so then that's the spiritual dynamic. And then the eighth dynamic is the urge towards existence as of infinity. So this is where people always say, does he ever mention God? Not really. This is the eighth dynamic. This is also identified as the supreme being. See, that's the only thing he really talks about. It's carefully observed here that the science of Scientology does not intrude into the dynamic of the supreme being. So in other words, you can believe whatever you believe that supreme being to be. Not really, though, because on OT3, remember, it's like a triangle. And once you get up to OT3, he was against Jesus, churches, angels, many, many different things that had to do with religion. So he says, it's carefully observed here that the science of Scientology does not, first of all, it's science. The science of Scientology is not a science, because the science you can question and you can ask for proof, and there isn't any there. Sex is a powerful control tool. True. I have a question. Did LRH determine that any dynamic is more important than the next? Not that I know of, but let me just finish this. It's carefully observed here that the science of Scientology does not intrude into the dynamic of the supreme being. This is also called the eighth dynamic because the symbol of infinity stood upright makes the numeral 8. This can be called infinity or God dynamic. So there you go. So that's the 8 dynamics. And in Scientology, in many, many different things that say, look, we need you to do this. It's the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics. So now, can you see all those different dynamics? And, in your head, you're kind of like, okay, I really need to do this because it's the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics, which really, truthfully, I think mostly Hubbard meant it's the greatest good for Scientology. That's it. He didn't give a shit really about you as a person, your family, obviously not, because he has disconnection. As a group, sort of, with Scientology, but that was still Scientology, the third dynamic. Fourth dynamic, mankind. I wouldn't really say he said and pitched that he really cared about mankind and we were going to clear planet Earth. So it makes you think it's really a good thing. Was it? Hell no. They didn't clear anybody. So it was just BS. And the fifth dynamic is, again, something I don't think he really cared about, which has to do with the animal kingdom and plants. I don't know. I wasn't near him, so I can't really speak for it. But I never read a lot about it. I didn't. And then the sixth dynamic, which is messed, that they talk about a lot because they decide on you or me depending on our mest. And if our mest is good, we're up stats. And if our mest is crummy, we're down stats. Okay, so Verity has a question. Did Elrich determine that? Okay, that's no, not that I know of that but I'm not an expert. So from what my understanding was, no, there wasn't probably the third dynamic, actually, now that I think of it, I think you're right. Probably the third dynamic was what he emphasized the most, or the fourth dynamic, all of mankind. The rest of them, I just think he used for manipulation. Okay, JB808, question. When you get to OT3, do you have to personally denounce any belief in other faiths before you can move on any further? You don't have to denounce it, because he wouldn't say that, because people wouldn't. He just says, as part of OT3, that all of these different things, churches, Jesus, angels, things like that, are all part of what's called an implant station, which, remember, Xenu, the evil warlord from the other planet, Tijiak, sent off, expelled all these spirits and put them in these implant stations where they were implanted with all this religious belief. You can read it on xenu.net. And remember, this is a great reference thing for a lot of things, in my opinion. But www.xenu.net. And there he has OT3. You can read exactly what Hubbard wrote about it because it's pretty weird. It really is. It's very worth reading. It sounds like these dynamics are very dehumanizing by separating them and removing the person from all these things. Probably, you're probably right. You think it's the opposite that, oh, okay, my first dynamic I'm taking care of. My second, my family's doing good. You can kind of, when they send you to ethics for something, they're like, all right, well, how are your dynamics? And they can kind of break it down, like, well, what's happening? And it's another way to guilt trip you into doing something. Well, what are you doing on your third dynamic? Scientology. Okay, but you haven't done anything in a while, so you need to start volunteering, right? And it's sort of like, otherwise your dynamics are not in a good condition. And so they use it to get you into a better condition. And you're right. I do think it's dehumanizing, because it's just BS, basically. But I wanted you to understand it because we, ex-Scientologists, often talk about the 8 dynamics or the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics. And if you don't know what they are, it's kind of like, okay, what does that mean? So I thought, well, I'll explain it to you. Now, does anyone have any questions about these different dynamics? Please ask them. I'm interested. I am. See, to me, I got in and I thought, oh, well, that's cool. It's like your first dynamic's yourself. Your second is your family. Your third is and sex, if once you're with someone. And the third one is your group one, which for me was Scientology. And the fourth one is all mankind, which of course we were clearing the planet. So you think, okay, we're really working on the fourth dynamic. And when they have all these people in other countries doing these things, it's like, yay, our fourth dynamic is really happening. Not really. It's not doing shit. They're over there just manipulating people in other countries who don't really understand it. It's like it's separating you from your family, society, and environment. It's hard to explain in these short comments. I understand, Sophie. Pardon me. I do. Yeah, it's weird. It's a cult. Every cult that you talk to, they have different tools that you think as a person, oh, well, this is helpful. Is it really? Not really. Just like it says it's a science. It's not a science. A science you can test. A science you can ask. You can ask questions about and say, well, I don't really think this works. I don't think, this and this go together. And in a science, they'll say, all right, let's try it. Let's put it together and look at it. You're right. It doesn't work. But, with the cult, no. All right. Sophie said, question, Tori, is the concept of being out exchange related to these dynamics? Yeah, I think so. Excuse me. Out exchange is like, let's say someone says, yeah, come on over. And the person goes over to their house and they just stay there and they eat there and they don't help at all and they don't do anything. We would say in Scientology, and I think it's kind of true, that their exchange is out. You know what I mean? They're not helping at all. But I do think they have, I don't know, they have so many different things that they can control you with. And exchange is kind of one of them. Like if they don't think your dynamics are good enough, it'd be like, well, how's your exchange? I mean, what's your exchange with your family? It seems like you're not in touch with your family. And it's like, well, what are you doing for them? How is your exchange? They paid for you to get out here. What have you done to help them? It's a way to just constantly keep you, I think, in kind of a frame of guilt where you're feeling like, oh yeah, I didn't do that right. Or, like someone comes over to your house and they go, wow, your plants are not doing so well. Your fifth dynamic is really kind of screwed up. Again, it's just more brainwashing and manipulation. Exactly, Verity. It's a form of manipulation that they can use to, tag you, say you're this, say you're that. All of those things are manipulation. And at the time, they're saying they're tools for you to survive. That's what, like he said, you already have 8 urges, drives, impulses in life. And we call these dynamics. These are motives or motivations. We call them the 8 dynamics. So, again, you learn about that early on. And then they can kind of talk to you about your different dynamics. Or you think about them, or you know what I mean? They go, well, you really need to do this next course because I don't think you really understand the dynamics. So this is the course that'll help you with it. And, they've always got stuff that they need you to buy, always. Books or something. It's always something. Does anyone else have a question on it? Do you guys understand it? You feel like you understand it any better or not? You have to let me know. Yes or no? Okay, I don't see anybody saying anything. Maybe you guys didn't want to hear about it. Yes, thanks. Okay, thank you, Sophie. I appreciate that. Okay, another thing that confuses me is how important family is to people, but how CFS really separates people. Exactly. That's the point. I mean, that's why I speak out. Stop hurting families. It's like their biggest thing is how pro-family they are. Oh, good. Thank you, Verity. Because I can't tell if it's enough or if I should tell you more or what. So I can show you these because they also he has these pictures. You see it? See, there's the first, and there's the family. The first one, the guy's looking in the mirror. Then here's the guys out on the boat, of course. The Sea Org. There's the group. And here's, I don't know how to do this. Okay, and then there's all of mankind. Oop, wait. Here's all of mankind. And then here's the animals, the birds and the trees. That's the 5th dynamic. And then the 6th is the universe dynamic. That's kind of weird. What is that? The universe dynamic. That must have been the mess on the universe. Let me just make sure. The 6th is the urge towards existence in the physical universe. Okay. So that would be matter, energy, space, and time. Yeah, so that's the mess universe. So it's kind of a crummy picture of it, I think. But that's the mess universe. And then you've got, see, he's got the infinity. That's the 8th dynamic. Woo, sorry. And then that's it. Oh, no, there's the spiritual one. This is that. That's the spiritual one. And then there's the 8th dynamic with the infinity symbol. It's hard for me to do it with this. It really is. Anyway, those are the 8 dynamics. Okay, so each question, does each dynamic have its own auditing process? That's a good question. I don't think so. They're more ethics. See, with your 8 dynamics, it would be something you would do with ethics. As far as I know, I never had any auditing on my 8 dynamics that I remember. I believe it's mostly auditing. I mean, ethics. Susan King said yes. I hope that means yes, it helped. Sophie, is there an order to handle each dynamic? Like because your first dynamic is out, the second one is too. Not that I know of, but again, you'd think I'd know more, but a lot of it I've forgotten, thankfully. I'm very happy that I have a hard time remembering stuff because I just didn't want to keep it around, you know what I mean? And so I don't think there was an order to it. I mean, it's like the first dynamic is you. So without you, there's no point in the second dynamic. Do you see what I mean? And then the second dynamic you're going to create, and that makes the third dynamic, which is a group, right? Because now you've got a family and kids, and now you've got the group. And then so that's a third dynamic. And then the fourth dynamic is all of mankind, which is, everybody, which you can tell they really, really do not respect and love all of mankind. They don't. Because if they did, they would be able to include everybody, and they don't. They're very exclusive, and that's one of their big downfalls, in my opinion. And then the fifth dynamic is just all living things, which it's interesting because I was at Flag for a long time. And while I was there, I noticed, and recycling had become a big deal, right? Where it was like, please take your bottles and your cans and put them in a separate thing, and paper. And Scientology has mounds and mounds and mounds of paper they throw out every day, and cans and bottles, and they did not care at all. And I remember talking to him one time, and I said, your PR is awful here in Clearwater. No one likes you. The majority of the town do not like them. And I said, if you just recycled alone, you could really make a difference. I really think. They wouldn't do it. Nope. They don't have time. It's like the simplest thing they won't do. All right. So anyway, did that answer that, Sophie? Did you get that? And are there any other questions on it? It's kind of like the survival of your 8 dynamics. So you as a person, kind of once you learn of the 8 dynamics, you're kind of like, ooh, my plants aren't doing well. I better water my plants so that my 8th dynamic is better. Okay, good, Sophie. Thank you. I better water my plants, or ooh, my hair looks awful. I better get it fixed, because that's part of my matter, energy, space, and time, and it's not looking good. It's just funny the way they introvert you, saying they're going to extrovert you, but they're basically making you more and more introverted all the time, where you're always worrying about different things. And I know I talked to an independent today. There are people that still believe in the tech. He thinks he's had wonderful wins in Scientology. He just didn't want to be part of the church, which, if you're listening, Osa, there's an awful lot of people out here that feel the same way. Not me. I didn't. And for me, because you routed me out of the Sea Org, or Hubbard did, whoever did, and said I had to get off my medication for epilepsy, I didn't have any wins because I had some wins co-auditing, but it was mostly me being an auditor because that's what I wanted to do. That's why I got in Scientology, was to help other people. Now, was I really able to help them? That I don't know. I'd have to talk to them, and most of them are still in. But okay, here's another question for Sophie. Not gonna lie, but my mom always hassles me about what I haven't done. Thank goodness she's not a Scientologist, as I'm sure it would be way worse. Amen, sister. Really, you are right on that one. I love it because, yeah, we all are like, yeah. It seems like it makes you more narcissistic because the me focus in auditing. I don't know. I don't see that, auditing is narcissistic. I guess it could be, but I don't think so. I saw a lot of people who were trying to get better. They really were. They weren't trying to be better than, they were just trying to be better themselves. Tim Ford, hi, glad you're here. I didn't even see Tim Ford slip in, but hi, Tim Ford. Sorry, I missed you slipping in. Verity, it's like circle upon circle with you as a dot in the middle. Yeah, that's probably true. It's like you, and then, your second dynamic, third dynamic, fourth dynamic, fifth dynamic, sixth dynamic, seventh dynamic, and then your eighth dynamic. There you go. Yeah, that's a good one, Verity. Thank you. That's pretty much how it is. Yes, Miss Tori and chat. Hi, Connie B. Do you have any questions on the eight dynamics? Anybody? Or any other words, because I wanted to do part 2, which has to do with the words. But if you have any other questions on other words, let me know, because I'm kind of writing them down. But yesterday I thought about that, the 8 dynamics, and I thought we should do that. That'd be good. I think it was. I do. She says I need to raise the energy and vibration. She who? Your mom? If my house is messy, then I'm lowering my vibration. She uses an Indian word for that I can't spell. What does it sound like? Why don't you write it out like how it sounds? Yes, my mom. Okay. So I need to raise my energy and vibration. Well, as most mothers, she doesn't need to be as judgmental as she is. That's my answer to that. It's like, you know what? Your energy is right for you. It may not be right for her. And she may not see your home the way you see it, but I believe your energy is right for you, Sophie. I really do. And I think your mom is just being judgmental like most mothers are. It's just unfortunate, but it's true. I like how you summed it up. They turn extroverts into introverts. I think they do. I really do. I'm kind of a little bit of both, but Scientology didn't help on it. That's for sure. Scientology does have its own lingo for sure. Yeah, that's for sure. That is for sure. Good point, Sophie. Yeah, really a good point. Sophie, Sattva, that's what she says. Raise this. Oh, the Sattva. Okay, Sophie. And I appreciate your support, Tori. Okay, good. Yeah. I mean, it's not that you can't try to work with her on it and raise your energy, but has she ever given you any examples of Sattva, and what does that actually, is it like all spiritual, where it's like you need to raise your spiritual energy? Or is it physical, like you need to be like moving faster around the house? Wow, Tori, you are actually pronouncing it like she does. You wrote it out right. That's right. You did it. See, that's what you did, not what I did. I'm reading what you wrote. Sattva. Anyway, it may be you've got to ask her, like, that's my thing on it is, what exactly does that mean to her? Raise your energy. Like, in what way? And if it's just a spiritual way, that's very difficult. It's difficult for her to explain it to you because it's spiritual, and that's in someone's universe. Do you know what I mean? It's in your world, it's in your head or your heart. It's how you think. It's not something, it's not like action, like you need to move faster around your house and clean it up and dust more and stuff like that. So you've got to find out which sattva is she talking about. spiritual or messed, matter, energy, space, and time. Remember that dynamic, because maybe she's just talking about your house. It belongs to you, Sophie, totally. It's your universe, it's your world, and we love you. So, which part of that is she missing? And I would also remind her that, because this is a thing many, many mothers do. They find little things to kind of tweak you, and they think they're helping you. They really do. They think they're helping you move faster or better or higher or whatever. But you can explain to them, thank you, username unknown. You can explain to her, this doesn't help me. Do you know what I mean? It's like either you need to narrow it down, and this is what my friend in Burbank, California told me. You need to narrow it down so that I can understand it and change something that needs to be changed if it does. And that is on you to explain to me, what is it? Or, excuse me, or you need to learn to love me, to love you and love me. Because probably a lot of it has to do with she's not loving herself. And her sattva is not the highest energy she wants. So what is it she needs that she's not getting? Because that has to do with her. You see what I mean? That's not you. She's putting it on you, but it's really her. Okay, Tori, I believe she got it from the School of Philosophy, of course. It's a concept of cleaning and tidy environments are important to raising your consciousness. If you're in mess, then your consciousness, is not able to elevate. Similar to cleanliness is next to God. Okay, I get it. We all often are working on that, especially if you have children. Good luck on that. It's like, how was her sattva when you were growing up? I try to stay out of my girls' business, business if I can. Yeah, good idea, Connie. Me too. Definitely, Sophie, Tori is giving the best advice here. Thank you, Verity. Okay, so love has nothing to do with a messy house. Exactly. Yes, Tori, I know she has high standards. She does have very high standards, but she's probably not reaching her own high standards. That's my point. And thus, she's putting it on you. That's usually what happens when people are being critical. And that's not Scientology. That's at all. That's just knowledge, and self-improvement. Sorry for the tangent, but yes, my mom's house is always tidy and clean. Okay. And maybe, how happy is she? Because you're pretty happy. Maybe she's not happy. I know a lot of people that are tidy and clean and forget it. My house is clean, but I wouldn't say it's tidy. It isn't. And it just isn't. Some of it is, and I try to keep it tidy, but really tidy, like super tidy people, I go over to their house, and I remember my grandmother was a queen of cleanliness and tidiness, right? And I remember thinking, I will never, ever live in a house like this, ever. Because to me, it was the opposite of what your mother's talking about, which is, wait, let me get the word right. Sattva, is that it? Is that the right word? Sattva? Let me see. Ooh. Okay, where is the sattva? Where were you saying that? She's pronouncing it like she does. Okay. Ooh. Ooh, 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 ooh. Sattva. Okay, it is sattva. There it is. Sattva. All right. Good. So my grandmother was the queen of tidiness, and everything was tidy. My grandfather was a doctor, and he was like, and this is a funny story, because my grandfather was a doctor. He was the one who'd always say hearts of oak, right? Because he was around people that were, having all kinds of physical problems. And his thing was keep your heart strong, no matter what. It doesn't matter. Hearts of oak. And he would say it all the time. So she was the queen of tidiness and cleanliness. And the house was all tidy and clean. And, oh God, don't touch that thing. That's my favorite, crystal, whatever. And I just think, why live like this? Why have a living room if you can't touch anything in it? So anyway, my grandfather would take us, we were in Kansas City, Missouri. That's where they lived. And there was a big eagle in the middle of Kansas City, Missouri. This is in a metropolitan area, big downtown. But he would take us, all three of the grandkids. Well, there were a bunch more, but of my family, there were three. And he would take each one of us by ourselves with him. And we had to try to spit in the old eagle's eye. Now, some people might be grossed out by that. But to me, it was his way of saying, you know what? You don't have to always do, the right thing. You can do the wrong thing sometimes. And if it feels better, do that. He was really, really a laid back guy. Okay. Hi, Brian. Hi, Tori. Good evening. And I hope you have a good night. Thank you. Thank you. I hope I do too. I mean, my night is pretty much over. It's 12:30. Well, it's not over, but let's see, to be fair, she left the School of Philosophy because it got too culty. Oh, interesting, Sophie. Well, good for her. And Connie B says, my mom was always clean, but when she was alive too, my father was equally clean after she died too. Yeah, my mom was always clean, and I'm clean. I'm just not tidy like that Japanese book, where everything is in its place. Not that I don't think that's a great idea. I think it is. Sattva. Yeah, that's right. I think it's a good idea, but I just think we all have to live, and we have to live every day, and we should have to love ourselves and our life every day. And even if it is cluttered, you look at, famous writers or producers or directors or, just people in different art industries. Their desks are a fucking mess. It's like they're not tidy. They're creating. They're busy. And I think you, Sophie, are a very creative person. That's just my own guess, but I think you are. So, okay, your sattva is different than your mom's. Your mom might have just found joy and love in having everything super tidy and everything in its place and stuff like that. But maybe that isn't your deal. You know what I mean? So anyway, just take it a day at a time and love yourself. Okay, Connie B, you probably could not get comfortable in your grandma's house. No, never. No. I mean, a little bit. I mean, at Christmas time and stuff like that. But I always said, I'll never live in a house like this. Never. And I go in I have a friend who has a house just like that. And she's very unhappy. Yes, everything's tidy and everything's clean. But she's not happy. And she has a lot of money too. But, it just sort of shows you, okay, is that really the answer to life or not? It depends on the person. For someone, you can go in their house and it's very tidy, it's very clean, and they're super happy. They love their life. That's what's important. If you love your life, then that's all that matters, is that you're happy with your life. You wake up in the morning and you go, I like this. I like my life. Okay, Sophie said, your grandfather sounds lovely. I absolutely love my pop. Yeah, he was I loved both my grandfather and my father. They were both really wonderful men. I was very blessed. Oh, feng shui spelling. Yeah, exactly. I'm a creative and a bit messy. Okay, see, there you go. That's what I thought. And it's like, that is you. Do you see what I mean? That isn't her. So she might have a different view of I mean, your energy is probably fantastic for you. Do you see what I mean? And as far as I'm concerned, it is. It's fantastic. But it isn't for her. But she isn't doing what you do. Do you see what I mean? So that's where it gets tricky. If my art studio is too neat, I won't paint. The mess is inspiring. Exactly. See, love it. That's what I'm talking about. It's like most creative people have some form of messiness. It's not that you have to be messy, but they're not neat freaks. You know what I mean? Neat freaks are different. And that isn't usually an artist. That's my opinion. LOL, love it. I know, Connie like that. I have a couple of friends who are super tidy, but they don't make you feel uncomfortable because they understand that others are not as pedantic as them, so you feel relaxed. See, that's perfect. That's perfect because then you're both exchanging at the energy level that's comfortable for you. Whereas when you're with people that it sounds like your mom is my mom was too. It's very like their way or the highway. It's like my mom was very like always, always, always. This is just a little bit of corrective criticism, Tori. Your hair looks awful. You really need to do X, Y, and Z. Or, oh my God, why are you wearing that orange top on a video? Good grief. That's a bad color for you. She was a model, so she was very into stuff like that. And it would be like, leave me alone. I was out with the guys up in the trees, climbing trees and playing football, or not football, but baseball, basketball. I was into sports. Just live and love. Exactly, Verity. Perfect. You love tidiness, then be tidy. If you don't want to have time today, there's always tomorrow. That's right. See? And that's a way to live every day, loving the day. And loving yourself while you're living the day. Exactly. Sattva, great word. I thought it was a mattress company. It's a sand-kissed word that means existence or goodness. It's also a philosophical concept in Hinduism that refers to purity, harmony, and knowledge. Okay, all right. Purity, harmony, and knowledge. Still kind of very vague as far as specifics. When someone's saying your sattva isn't high enough, it's like, okay, and in what way do you mean? Again, are you talking about my mess universe, the physical universe, my house? Are you talking about my spiritual? What exactly is she talking about? Tori, you are so wise and understanding. I always appreciate your perspective and advice. Thank you, Sophie. I feel the same about you. I really do. And Jazz Raz, thank you for the explanation. Yeah, that was good. That was really good. The School of Philosophy teaches from the Vedas. We would write in Sanskrit. Wow, cool. Very cool. Night Owl Tori, you got that right. Jessica Palmadessa is in the house. Hi, girl. How are you? It's good to see you. It's good to see you. Thank you for coming by. Yeah, it is good to see her. She's a good girl. I always tell people that. She's a crazy person. She got me into this. I wasn't going to make any more videos, and Jessica was my inspiration. She really was. She and Will, both of them. To be fair, I copied it from Google, but thank you. That's okay. You brought it here and you explained it to us. So that was really I'm going to say it again. Sattva, this was how this came about, Jessica, is Sophie, who's one of the moderators, her mother says she needs to raise her sattva. And so she was trying to explain it to us. And Jazz Raz brought this in. Sattva, great word. Oh, wait, here, I'll put it here so you can see it. Here, great word. I thought it was a mattress company. That part of it I love. It's a Sanskrit word that means existence or goodness. It is also a philosophical concept in Hinduism that refers to purity, harmony, and knowledge. So there you go. We started out talking tonight about the 8 dynamics, and I explained them, and they're in this video. If you care about it, Jessica, which you probably don't, but if you do, because she was never in Scientology, and she's kind of out of even protesting Scientology now, I think. But we miss you. I hope you come back. I really do, because you were a vital force in getting this thing going and keeping it going. And I think you should come by once in a while. I'm going to protest Sunday. Sunday, I'm going to protest. I am. I mean, I like what you're doing, cruising around, but I worry about you late at night like that. I'm telling you. I mean, have you guys heard my story where I almost got raped? Did you guys hear that? Do you want to hear it? Jessica's listening. Okay, so the 8 dynamics are this, you hear the survival, the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics. Well, dynamics in a nutshell, first dynamic is yourself. Second dynamic is your family and sex. So it's like sex is part A and part B is the family unit. And then the third dynamic is your group, which could be whatever it is. I haven't heard that story. All right, I'll tell it in a minute. And the fourth dynamic is all of mankind. So the fifth dynamic is all living things. So like birds and dogs, like all your mom's dogs, that'd be the fifth dynamic. And how well they're doing in Scientology is like, well, how is her fifth dynamic doing? You know, how are the dogs doing, right? You know, that kind of thing. Okay, then the sixth dynamic is matter, energy, space, and time. So like I was saying, my mom was real picky on how I looked, even though she always, I was like a tomboy. So I wasn't like dressing up much at all. But anyway, she would have tonight been like, Tori, why are you going on the internet with your hair like that? Yeah, she's just always correcting me on stuff. So anyway, that's the mess. And then the next one is spirit, the spiritual universe. And then the last one is the 8th dynamic, which is infinity, or if you hold it upright, it's a letter 8. And that's supposed to be the supreme being, whatever you believe that to be. So basically, Hubbard never mentioned God. It's just your 8th dynamic, right? My mom was that way too. Yeah. I think a lot of, not a lot, but like my mom was a model. So she had pretty high standards for how someone should look. And definitely for me, because I had 2 boys, my brothers, and then me. I was the only girl. No worries, Sophie. You're always so friendly. Aw, what happened? Hi there. Not sure if I said hi. Aw, that's nice. Please remember to hit the like button. Thank you. My brain hurts after trying to understand that. Aw. Okay, the first dynamic is you. The second dynamic is your family. You've got that, right? So yes or no? Do you have those two, first, second? And it's just the urge to survive through yourself, your family, your group, all of mankind. And then the next one is all living things, animals and plants. And then after that is matter, energy, space, and time, which is just, physical universe stuff. Like how's your mess? How's your car? How's your house? That kind of thing. And then where was I? 5th dynamic, 6th dynamic is matter, energy, space, and time. 7th dynamic is spirit, whatever that might be. And then the 8th dynamic is but of course, that's how they get the OT levels, because your 7th dynamic, this will really help your 7th dynamic. And then the 8th dynamic is the supreme being. So that's Hubbard's bullshit way of getting out of God. It's just the supreme being, whatever you believe that to be. Good news, you could never be a Scientologist. Never. Okay, it makes more sense now. Okay, good. So it's just another way they manipulate people, because it's a tool, It sort of makes sense, but not really. Like, do you really need it? Not really. But they can use it to go, well, wait a minute, your fifth dynamic or your sixth dynamic is really, we came over and saw your car and wow, it's a mess. What happened? You need to go down to ethics and get that sorted out. Hubbard believed in spirits. Yeah, he did. He did. Okay, it makes more sense. Okay, good, Jessica. And if you have a question, you can ask me if you have a question on it. That don't feel, there's no stupid questions. So if you have any questions where you've heard words or different things and you weren't sure, these are sort of like part 1 and part 2 on words in Scientology that you might have heard and you're kind of like, I don't really know what they're talking about. And last night, a couple of people asked me things and it helped to clear them up. I think for them, it did. My last employer, Lighthouse for the Blind, wow, called to offer me a job a couple weeks ago. I retired a couple years ago and knew that I could never type again like that. Well, maybe you could do something else with them. You don't necessarily have to do typing. You could call them and say, here's the deal. I can't type, but what do you have anything else that I could do? And they probably would. I mean, Lighthouse for the Blind, they do. My friend is a translator. You see him on TV. He's one of the main, Jack Jason. He's one of the main translators because he was born, he could speak, but his parents were deaf. Both of his parents, his mother and his father. His mother just passed away. His father's still alive and deaf. And so Jack is mainly the narrator for Marley, who's the actress who's deaf. And then also on TV, he does a lot of different things. But he's usually on the side. You can kind of see Jack. He's a great guy, really great, really fun. But he goes and works with the blind all the time. And he just does phone stuff. He just sits and puts on a headset. And I don't know how that all works, but anyway, he helps them. So you might want to look into that. Okay, Jessica, question for you. Did you personally or any of the people around you while in Scientology believe in God, or was it not really something they believed in? I believed in it because I was raised a Catholic. So God is a big part of Catholicism. And once it's sort of, this is my view, this isn't a Scientology view, but once God is in your heart, it's kind of like you're not going to get rid of God, I don't think. People say they do, and you don't really have a lot of attention on it, and you don't go to Mass. And, there's a lot of things that in the Catholic Church I never did, and I was happy to not do it because I'd left the Catholic Church when I was 13. So I was like, fine, I don't care. I don't want to go to confession, all of that stuff, even though you ended up having to do set checks. But so no, for me, and for most of the people I knew who were Catholics, they believe in God. Other people, I think pretty much like my husband, never was raised with any kind of religion except Scientology. So he had no concept of a higher, like he says, the eighth dynamic is a supreme being, whatever you believe that to be. But if you never had any education or whatever you want to call it, introduction into God, you wouldn't have that. And that's how he was. I think some people do. Yeah, it's Marley Matlin. That's right, Connie. That's her. And Jack is her main translator for years. No, I'm done, Tori. I'm disabled and don't even leave the house. Okay. All right. But you're here. And that's leaving the house, I think. To me, it's like us getting together is kind of our little adventure, and that's okay. Don't feel bad. That's all right. If you're done, you're done. Great question, Jessica. Yeah, that is a good question. So did that help? Did that answer the question? That makes sense. Yeah. So for me, ironically, this is an interesting story. I don't tell it much because it's kind of a very personal story. But right when I was waking up at the very end, it was the New Year's Eve 2000. And my husband was outside for the one of the few times he went out to, I said, you go handle the critics, because they'd always send me out. I said, you go handle them. So now I'm at the event and I'm thinking, these people are so full of shit. It's ridiculous. And I had really been waking up for a while. So I did what I usually do as far as God. I thought, all right, I'm just going to beam up to God. And I always had this thing where I could just kind of beam up, and I felt like I was in touch with God. And I said, okay, I'm out of the way. You do whatever you want with my life. You can have it for a year. You do whatever you want. I'm not going to think about anything else. I am just going to, you guide me. That's it. And that was it. And that I really meant it. And I really thought God would have me down in Brazil running a Scientology organization in Brazil. But instead, I ended up through a bunch of different things, helping my auditor, being on with the Office of Special Affairs, they turning on me, throwing me under the bus. So I ended up on the internet because that was the direction God put me in. Now, maybe it wasn't, but I felt it was. And it ended up being very good. That's also why I keep my dad, my internet site is Tory Magoo 44, because my nickname for my dad was Mr. Magoo, because he was very funny on NBC broadcasting for football. And his football number was 44. So this is a football card. One of the critics, or it's an ex-Scientologist, Mark Plummer, who passed away this year with Andreas, or last year, actually now. But they passed away. Dang, that's deep? What's deep? All right, now I got to find out what's deep. All right, that makes sense. Yes, I'm here. Glad to have the internet. Good, Connie. Connie, glad you're here as well. Dang, that's deep. Okay, so which part is deep? You have to, with me, it's important that you let me know, because otherwise I'm like, okay, who is she talking about? What's deep? Thanks, Sophie. I've been ill recently, so I'm very happy that the internet is here. Me too. And I'm glad you're here. I really am. And I'm really proud of you that you're taking the time to come here and visit with us. That's a good thing. It is. So, Jessica, you have to answer me. Okay, here it is. Haha. I mean, like your explanation about letting God guide you for a year was deep. I know, it was very deep for me, and it was very unusual. I didn't have that at all in Scientology. That's why it was ironic. It was like, I've been in Scientology for 30 years and never even thought about God. I mean, maybe a little bit here and there, but not really. Not really. But now I'm at the end of the line. I'm ready to wake up, and I give myself up to God and say, do whatever you want to do. I'm out of the way. And then ironically, I leave and I escape out, chased across the country, come back. I meet Spanky Taylor, who I knew since the 70s. And she's in Going Clear, if you haven't seen it. And I say, Spanky, she goes, all right, let me ask you something. How do you know when a Scientologist is lying? And I said, I don't know. She said, if their lips are moving. Because they all have this thing of the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics. And they just, they think whatever that they're being ordered to do is the right thing. But the other thing she said that had to do with what you said, and I'm talking about, and now I forgot it. Oh, letting God guide you. Yeah, she said, I said, I don't know what to do. I just don't know what to do. I was just like so used to in Scientology, you're doing this and you're doing that and you're going up the bridge and you're and it's sort of like all this stuff. And all of a sudden you're just out there. Now what? And I looked at her and I said, I don't know what to do. And you know what she said? Tori, just get out of the way. That's all. And she was raised a Catholic too. She said, just think of it like a bullfighter. and you just go Olay and get out of the way, and the rest will happen. And here I am. And that's because of Jessica Palmadessa. I would not be here if it wasn't for Jessica Palmadessa. Because I don't know if the rest of you know this. I think I've told Jessica, but I had sort of retired because I didn't know how to, you know, how all these people have all these, like, Nora Ames and this and that, or they have different, here's Hammond, California, and they know how to put up all these videos and stuff like that. I don't know how to do that. So when COVID happened, I just said, okay, I'm done. And during that time, a lot of the other people learned how to do that. So they were really doing all these cool videos. And I was like, okay, I don't know how to do it. And then my friend Andrew said, okay, you got to go to TikTok and type in Jessica Palmadessa. And I said, no, I don't do TikTok. And he said, Tori, listen to me. Type in Jessica Palmadessa on TikTok. I said, all right. So I go there, I type in Jessica Palmadessa. And I'm like, oh my God. It's like finally someone that totally is I knew you were just going to annihilate them because it was so much funnier. And they're not good with humor at all. And she's very funny. So anyway, she was really my inspiration. And she came over because we tracked her down, me and Drew. We were like, the next weekend, we were like, let's see if we can find the kids. And we found them. And I asked her, I said, would you come over and show me how to do this? And she came over and we did our first video, which we need to do our second one. It's now the second year. We need to do our part 2. But she came over and I said, I don't know how to do all those fancy things on the internet. And she said, nobody cares. Just turn on your internet and start telling your stories. That's what everybody cares about. And I can't thank you enough for that because it really, here I am. It really inspired me. It did. Okay, so Jessica, I remember Daisy at the testing center claiming she was Catholic. Right. That's the other thing. They lied to their teeth. I never said that. When I was in Scientology, they would say, are you something? Once in a while, I'd say, I used to be a Catholic. But I wouldn't say I am a Catholic. I wondered if she actually still believed in God or if Scientology stripped that from her and she was lying just to try and seem relatable. I think it's the latter. I really do. I don't even know if she ever was a Catholic. Like I told that guy two Decembers ago, watch out for them. They lie and they hate me. And he came out white as a sheet and he goes, wow, they really hate you. And I said, I warned you. And then I called him the next day and asked him, just out of curiosity, what did they say about me? And he said, they told me you are a top secret, undercover CIA agent. There you go. So that is really who I am. Ha ha, Osa. You goofballs. You give people content all the time. I mean, that's the thing. I told them when I was in, you are creating your own enemies. When I was in, I was still a Scientologist. I was still believing it. And I said, you're creating your own enemies by doing this stuff. Do they listen? No. Okay, so good advice. Thank you, Connie. I don't know if you're saying that about me, but thank you. Do you feel like there are some positive attributes that, wait a minute, I gotta figure. This is a new laptop I have, which anybody who donated to it, thank you. And I appreciate you telling me that, Jessica, that was what was deep. It was deep. It was deep for me too. It was intense. I hope you feel better as soon as possible. Me too. We'll all keep you in our prayers or wishes, whatever that is. Okay. So Daisy said she's a Catholic. Yeah, I wouldn't trust them. The easiest thing is to always say, when was the last time you went to Mass? Because nobody ever asked that, but that's how you can find out if somebody's really just making it up or not. And she may be a Catholic, but she's not an active Catholic. Do you see what I mean? Or the other thing is, where are you at on the bridge? Because if she's lower on the bridge, it doesn't matter. It only comes into play as far as Hubbard being against God, Jesus, angels, churches from OT3, and Scientology is a triangle. So it's in the top triangle. That's when you learn about that. Do you feel like that's why it's stupid to say Xenu? Because it's like most of those people have never heard the word, will never hear the word, and they go inside and they go, come on, these people don't know what they're talking about. And so it's just better to talk to them than to yell stuff like that. Do you feel like there are some positive attributes that are ingrained in you from Scientology, like being a very validating person? Validating person? Is that something you learned from Scientology? Now, I finally realized I have some very good qualities, but they're based on my parents. I learned them from my parents at a very young age. My parents were both of them were public PRs. My dad was on NBC as a broadcaster and was just a wonderful guy. And people to this day, he died at 51, and people to this day call me up or talk to me and say, I wish I could have thanked your father. He taught me how to play basketball, or he taught me how to do this, or that. My dad was a cool guy, and he was very humble too. So he was really, people really appreciated him. And my mom was just sort of a natural PR. So there's that. They both were really good communicators. So that was the other thing where I feel like my communication skills, I used to think it was all because of Scientology. But then when I started thinking about it, I thought, I've always been this way before Scientology. The communication course, I will say, for me, helped define why some people aren't good at communication. You know what I mean? It was kind of like, oh, that's it. They don't know how to acknowledge someone, right? And that's TR2, is acknowledgments. Hey, I got it. And I've sat in offices with businesses, and the owner will go blah, 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 blah. And everyone in the room will go like this. And I'll go, thank you. And the guy will just brighten up because it's like someone heard him. But, it's amazing if you start listening to acknowledgments or not. People don't acknowledge a lot. So most of the stuff that I think is positive, I got from my parents or my grandparents. That's my opinion. Okay, thanks, Jessica, for helping Tori get back on YouTube. Yeah, truly. Thank you. Thank you, Sophie, for thanking her. Hi, lovely Tori and Chad. Hey, Irish Mart. Ooh, yay. One for Ireland. Jessica Palmadessa. Sophie, happy I could help. Yeah, amen on that, sister. The most ethical people on earth. That is one of the worst things that they could say. I mean, come on. I love that they sell communication and they sell freedom, and yet what do? They stop communication, they break up families, they're mean to kids, they rope them into billion-year contracts if they can, or it's just they rip people off, they take all their money. It's like they're the least ethical people on the planet, and that's for you, Osa. You guys can pretend all you want. Today's what? Friday. So this is the beginning of your new week. And here we are, the SPs, having a good time. And you're not. I know it. I've been with you guys. You might be making fun of us, and that's like, oh, isn't that fun? That's 1-1. You say we're 1-1. No, you're 1-1. I've been with you when you're like, they just said this. Out of a whole hour of communication, they can only find one thing to laugh about us. Sad. Love your CIA. Thank you, Sophie. I know, me too. Someone sent it to me. Tony B. LOL on the secret agent. I know. Isn't it funny? I mean, it's such material. It's like Jessica taught me that it's content creation, right? And they're like constantly giving content in one way or another. Okay, Irish Mart, good evening. Hi, Sophie. Jessica Palmadessa, you're a sweetheart. She is. She really is. And she's very funny, too. You should be a comedian, Jessica. You really should consider it because I'm telling you, you have it. You do. Okay, Tori, good to see you well and healthy. All the best, my love, in the new year. Thank you. Thank you very much. Venum88. That's cool. All right. And username unknown. What about the rape story? Do you want to hear it? Do you guys want to hear it or not? It's interesting. I think, let's see, wait. I remember Mike Renderleah and Tony Ortega used to call out a Scientology singer named Stacey Francis for snowboating Christianity as a topic. They said, you can't be both. Okay. And you're not rolling on the floor laughing my ass off. Okay. Who's not what? You got to be clear on that. Sophie, I do think some of the communication tools are useful, but you don't need Scientology to learn how to communicate. Exactly. See, that's the thing I realized. All of their tools are in a bookstore or the library. And they're only, if you buy them, they're $19.95. And in Scientology, they're $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. That's the difference. JB808, Stacey Francis was a contestant on the first season of X Factor who sang Natural Woman, and Leah Remini was her daughter's godmother. Wow. They both disconnected once Leah was declared an SP. Wow, that's some backstory. Thank you, JB808. Whoa. Okay, Cricket Cinema, hi there. I didn't see her even slip in. Hi. And Jessica is a comedian on her own terms. Win-win. Exactly. But I'm just saying, I think if she ever wanted to, she could really be big, big, big as a comedian because she could do it as she's doing it, which is great, or she could do it in comedy things, which I think would be funny too. But it's up to her. She's good either way. Username unknown, yes. Connie B, yes, please. Oh, about the rape thing. Okay, all right. Okay, so here's the rape thing. Sorry about that comment. I've forgotten now what it was I commented on. I know, that's the point. That's why I asked people. Isn't that interesting? If I put my arms up, you can see the back. Anyway, all right, here's the deal. I was working in Hollywood late at night. And this was in the early 70s, very, very early 70s. And I was a hippie who'd gotten into Scientology. So now I'm working in Hollywood. And I'm thinking, I'll just hitchhike home. No problem. So I kind of knew how to pick people to go with. And so I get in one car, it's fine. I get in another car, it's fine. I get in a third car, and this guy is dressed in a suit. He looks really cool. Turns out we get to the end of right near my house, and he stops the car. And all these people, this is the other thing I forgot to tell you. And this is the one win that I did have with Scientology that I can remember. That's a big win for me. They have a thing called, God, no, I just forgot it. It's like we had to do clay demos of certain things. And this was a clay demo having to do with, everybody was saying, don't hitchhike, Tori. You can't keep hitchhiking like that. You're going to get raped, right? And I was on a course. I just forgot what it was. I had the clay demo. Oh, yeah. You can't, if you can't, in this universe, in this world, you can't make a perfect duplicate. If you make a perfect duplicate of anything, it will vanish, right? Like, in other words, the concept is no two things, this can't, and another one just like it can't be in the same space. They just can't physically. So I had just done this whole clay demo on that. that no two things cannot be in the same space at the same time. And now I go to work, I'm in Hollywood, it's late at night, I hitchhike home, I'm in a car with this guy, and he stops the car. And his whole face, I can't even pretend to make it up. It was so scary. But his whole face contorts, and he looks at me, and he says, and all these people, remember, had said, you're going to get raped, Tori. You've got to stop hitchhiking. So now this guy says, I am a sex maniac. And I can't even possibly put it there, but it was a really scary face, and I don't get scared easily. And I hear all these people saying, Tori, you're going to get raped. You're going to get in trouble. You shouldn't be hitchhiking. And I think, okay, this is it. My life's over. I'm going to get raped. And then all of a sudden I just thought, no, wait a minute. If you can make a perfect duplicate of something, it'll as is. It'll go away. It'll vanish. And so I just pull out from wherever, just some imaginatory thing where I'm like, baby, I'm going to eat your fucking balls off. And I just slam my hand on his shoulder and I go, far out. So am I. And the guy just completely caves in. I mean, it was unbelievable to see. I mean, he just completely, it's like a balloon, just no air in it at all. And he goes, where do you live? And I kind of look at him like, you guys always say you're sex maniacs, but you never come through. And I go, I live right up the street. So he drives me right up to my front door and lets me out. And I get out and I go inside and I just cry and cry and cry. And luckily I was living with a really cool lady and she held me. I know, it was pretty amazing. But I love to tell women that because it's one of those things you see movies all the time of women, oh no, don't rape me, and mine was the opposite. And that was using a Scientology tool. I would not have thought of that myself. I know, it's pretty amazing. But going far out, so am I. And bonus, it turns out he was a serial killer. He was. I looked him up in the serial killer things and found him. And I thought, oh my fucking God, he was going to kill me. And if I hadn't used that one tool, God knows if I would have even been here. So anyway, it's a good thing to know if you ever get in that position, just jump on them. You know what I mean? It was like, whoa, I'm a bad person to take on. I really am. I'm a very nice person, but if I get pissed off, look out. And that was one of those times. I don't know. I don't have his name right now, love it, but he was one of the ones that were in Hollywood killing women. What the hell? Wow, it's crazy. I know. It's pretty crazy. And I guess God could use it too. If a woman was trying to rape him, you could do the same thing. Hey, so am I. It was so amazing to see it work. I was like, oh my God. Because I think I honestly did make a perfect duplicate of what he would, it was like I really did put it there. And man, it freaked him out. What the hell? Wow, it's crazy. I know, it is. It really is crazy. So anyway, that's my rape story, though, that I didn't get raped because of it. And my Scientology win. That's the most crazy story. That's amazing how you handled that situation. Thank you. Yeah, I was really proud of it. And I tell women about it all the time because I know many, many women see stories of women getting raped. And it's just sort of in our head that, oh, don't rape me. And it's like, no, opposite. No. You jump on it. Far out. So am I. He did not want to hear that. He did not. I'm just so relieved that you got away. Yeah, me too. So good things come out of Scientology too. Yeah, there are, for sure. Like I talked to a guy today who's an independent, meaning they still use the tech, but they're not part of the church. And he said, honestly, Tori, I have a lot of things that I still really cherish about that I learned in Scientology. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to try to turn him around. You see what I mean? It's like if he feels like he had wins on it, okay. It's not my thing. And he knows that. He said, I know you don't feel that way. And I said, I don't for me, but you have to remember, I have epilepsy. And in the very beginning, they routed me out of the C organization to handle epilepsy. That's what I had a letter from L. Ron Hubbard saying, your job is to go in the HGC, which is where you have to professionally get auditing, and go up the line, handle epilepsy, and then you can come back in the Sea Org. So my thing was a different thing where, it's ironic because Hubbard was the one who said, if you're auditing over a present time problem, which having epilepsy is a bit of a present time problem. And it isn't something auditing is going to handle ever. And that was the thing my mom saved my life on, because she said, look, they're going to kill you, Tori. Because I was losing my short-term memory, which DOA helped me on that. He was the one person I've told thousands of people about my memory thing, from them taking me off my medicine and having grand mal seizures and all this other stuff. But DOA came over. He spent 3 hours here. And at the end, I said, look, I really am sorry. I can't remember certain things. I apologize. And he said, I just want you to understand something. You really don't have a memory problem. You just need one word. That's it. And I thought, he's right. It's true. If someone's listening, that's what I realized. A lot of times people aren't really listening, or they drift off, or they're thinking of other things. So then when I say, what was I talking about? They don't know. They remember a few minutes ago, but that doesn't help me. But when I speak, like if I go to a group and I do a speak where I'm talking about Scientology, I tell them about the memory thing. And I say, someone in the audience has to follow what I'm saying and remember what I'm saying, at the time, in the moment. Because I'm like a tree where you have different branches and limbs, and I get off on these different limbs, and then it's like, what was I talking about? And someone will say Lake Forest, and I'm like, boom, I'm back. And he pointed that out, and it helped me for the rest of my life. It was a major change in my life because of that. So anyway, I'll always thank him for that. Okay, so you have to have your site about you. Now, wait a minute. So good things, you have to have your site about you? What do you mean? Verity, tell me what you're talking about there. Good things come out of Scientology, bad things stay in. True, that's good. Love it. Verity, wits. I don't know what you're saying, Verity, and I don't know what you have to have your site about you. Wits? I don't know what that means. And then Sophie said, love it. That's a brilliant way of putting it. It really is. Very good. That's us. Tori, teleprompter, only she doesn't need it that much. That's us. Tori's teleprompter, only she doesn't need it that much. Okay. I don't know what you're saying, Sophie, there either. Question. I saw an interview where it was said that LRH took phenobarbital. Yeah, I heard that too. Jesse Prince told me that. Wasn't that what they would not let you take it at first? I never took phenobarbital. I took some other medicine, but it was to control seizures. And yeah, they made me get off of it. It wasn't phenobarbital though, but it's probably a similar thing. I don't know what phenobarbital is actually. So I didn't know he took that, actually, now that I think of it. Jesse told me he took drugs and medicine, which really pissed me off. Imagine all the shit that I went through, and then to find out this guy's popping pills on the ship. Made me mad. Sophie, Verity was correcting her comment, saying you have to have your wits about you. Okay, so she was correcting my comment that I have to have my wits about me? I'm confused. Let's go back up here. Good things come out of Scientology, bad things stay in it. That I got. Verity, you have to have your site about you. Okay, Verity, you have to explain that. You have to have You have to have your sight about you. Are you saying I need to have my sight about me, or what is your point? Please explain. Verity was correcting her comments, saying you have to have your wits about you. Oh, okay. So it wasn't you have to have your sight about you. It's that you have to have your wits about you. That's true. Okay, now I get it. Thank you. Thank you, Sophie. And thank you, Verity. That, yeah, you do. That's right. Especially, when you're in a situation like that, for sure. It's often given for epilepsy. My friend takes it. Okay. Phenobarb is one of the first lines of defense for epilepsy. It did not work for my husband's seizures. He takes another one starting with D. He has for over 40 years. I'm glad that it worked. Yeah, that's how I feel. The one I'm taking works really great. And that's it. And Jazz says she didn't mean sight, she meant wits. Okay, now I get it. Yeah, thank you. Verity, you have your. I think you mean you have to have your wits about you to be able in the situation with that hitchhiking. Sorry, it was a typo. I get you. Okay, now I get it. Thank you. And I have another one that's another interesting one. Another night during this same time period, because I rarely talk about this period because it was the early 70s and you know odd things happened. But anyway, I was hitchhiking back home another night, and this black guy said, "All right, yeah, I'll give you a ride home." So now we're going down the 101 freeway, which I don't know if Jessica's still on here, but she knows the 101 freeway. And we're going down the freeway, and I have to get off at Buena Vista. I think was it Buena Vista? No, it's at Benton Way. That was the name of it, which was right near the old American St. Hill, which was on Temple. So it's going he's going faster and faster, and I say, you know what? My sight is coming up where I have to get off. My exit is coming up. And he goes, what, you got something against black people? And I said, no, I don't have anything against black people, orange people, green people. I want to go home. I'm tired. And you said you'd give me a ride, and that's it. And he goes, well, guess what? You're not going home. You're coming home with me. And he starts driving really fast. And I think, okay, here we go. And then I think, get it together, Tori. I have this thing where I've had it most of my life. Get it together, Tori. And it's like when I'm by myself and I have to get it together. And it's just like, that's what I think. Get it together, Tori. And I just went like this. I reached over, took the keys, hung them out the window. Remember, this is the early 70s. I said, let's get a couple of things straight here. Your car is going to stop in a few minutes if you don't get off at my exit. And when it stops, a policeman is going to come up here and ask you what's wrong. And you're a black guy, and I'm a white person, and you said you were going to give me a ride, and now you're going to take me home to my house. And I'm dangling the keys out the window. And I said, so it's really up to you. Do you want to get off at this exit, or do you want to talk to the police? And he goes, give me the keys. And I gave him the keys, and he gets off at the exit. And I said, that's my house right there. The first house. I said, that's my house. And he stopped the car, and I got out. I said, thank you for the ride. And I just started walking down the street. And at the end of Benton Way is the police department. So this guy drives up and down the street. Honestly, I wasn't going to do anything to you. I'm really sorry. I wasn't going to do anything for you. It was okay. I just walked home, which was a few miles, but I got there. But anyway, he didn't get to take me home. Okay, so you have to have your wits about you. Yeah, I get it, Verity. I do. It's like that. It's kind of like you have to think in the moment and be there in the moment. Because if you just react, you're a character. I am a character. I agree with you. I think we all are characters. I really do, in our own way. Everybody has their own different way of being a character. You're a quick thinking under pressure. That you're right on that. I mean, that is I always say I am the best of the best in emergencies. I mean, you can't have a better person than me in an emergency. I mean, I am like on it. And these are a couple of examples, but I have a ton of them. Tori, you're so tough. When I grow up, I want to be just like you, Sophie. You're so funny. A lot of people say that to me. When I grow up, I want to be like Tori. Jessica says that. And I'm like, well, I was just like you when I was your age. I was. I'm friends with her mom, and we talk, and I go, God, I totally understand her deal. I do. It's I was just like that in my own way. They didn't have the internet back then. I feel I am pretty good in emergencies too. Yeah. Yeah. Certain people are, certain people aren't. But if you are, it's very helpful. I mean, it just is. And it's a skill that I don't even know where I got it. I don't. I really don't. I think for me, I think personally, somehow it's mixed in with epilepsy and seizures and just what works and what doesn't work. And, it's like people freaking out does not ever help someone in a bad situation. And I can remain calm in my best thing. Yeah, see, that's the thing. If you remain calm, it calms everything down. Whereas if you, people get like, oh, are you okay? It just makes it worse. It's really interesting. It's a very interesting thing. Well, anyway, I better go because it's now 1:41 we've been on. We have 64 people here. Thank you, all 64 of you. Jessica's got 55,000 that watch her. So you guys need to bring 100 each of you the next time we come. Just kidding. All right, now let's see. But that would be kind of nice. Calmness is key. It is. John Adams, amen. Yep. Okay, John Adams said, I'm great in an emergency too, but I will come completely unglued afterwards when everything calms again. Yeah, exactly. Just like me with the rape, it was like I was completely there with the guy until I got inside. And then I just cried and cried and cried. It was like, oh, it took a long time to get over that. It was spooky. It really was. All right. Well, you guys have a good night too. This was fun. Okay, good. I'm glad you guys liked it. If you have anything else you want me to bring up, I would really appreciate it if you would send me either a private message or a Facebook private message or a text. Yeah, instead of an email. If you have to do email, put the YT for YouTube, but I'm still really bad at it. Sweet dreams, Tori. Thank you, Sophie. Have a lovely evening, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for being here, you and Love It and everyone that came on. Thank you. I really enjoyed this. I really did. I enjoyed talking to you guys, and I'm glad you liked my stories. They're kind of kooky, but for the guys that come tomorrow, you can leave a comment if you want. It's okay. I like hearing from people the next day because once we end, then I don't know how to do it, but all of your comments go away. And then only the people that post, those show up for me. I don't know. I don't know if that's how it's supposed to be or not. Let's see. Ouch, my eyes are getting tired. Okay, I will sleep well. I do all the time. Thank you. Thank you, Love It, for all of your purple hearts. That's very nice. Or leave questions and comments after the video is published. That's a good one too. Yeah. Or other topics that you want mentioned or any words, because we're kind of on a word chain, clearing up different words. If you've heard things people have said and you're like, I really don't know what they're talking about on that, ask and just say, could you clear this up? And I'll try my best. I will. Have a great night, everyone, or good time or good time zone. Thank you, John Adams. Good night, Faraday. Good night, Care for JCYT. There's a way to do it. Wish I knew how. Thank you. Okay, somebody will. Please hit the like button on your way out. Yes, please do that. And Tori, it takes time. Ooh, uh-oh. Well, wait a minute. I got to plug in my battery. Just a second. Nope, that's not it. I think this is it. Let's see. Okay, I think that's it. I think that was it. Tori, it takes time for a live chat to load, but all of them are still on all your lives. Really? That's so weird. Because I don't have the ability to see them. I don't know what I have. I must have something clicked off or on or something, but one of these times somebody can come show me. In the meantime, I love you guys. I thank you for being here this long. And I'm glad you liked my stories and that you liked the 8th dynamic thing. That I'm glad it helped some people. I hope it did. Anyway, there you go. Everybody sleep tight and have a wonderful tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday. So there you go. Have a wonderful Friday. If all else fails, ask Bunky. I always do. He's my man. Always. All right. Well, we're heading out. I'm going to end off. Good night. And now it's saying leave it